change. What that means, again, is for those who think that, they're not going to have a peace agreement because rockets are coming over from the Gaza, or Mahmoud Abbas is using American money to rearm, and that's got to hold up an agreement. She's saying it's not. She goes on to say, it's not good for us or for the pragmatic Palestinians. When there is a window of opportunity, we must take advantage of it. What's the window of opportunity? The window of opportunity is Ehud Olmert's not going to be in office very much longer. Benjamin Netanyahu just said we need new elections, and his popularity is 3%. What's the window of opportunity? George Bush has only got 14 more months in the White House. And so, therefore, he says, we got to take advantage of our window of opportunity. We must take advantage of it and conduct talks, while at the same time preserving our national assets. Lifney emphasized that a two-state solution means that the right of return for Arabs will not be implemented in Israel, but rather in the Palestinian entity. Did you hear that? She said that the quote-unquote right of return, which is the reason why there was no agreement when Clinton met with Arafat and Ehud Barak at Camp David, right at the end of Clinton's term. Arafat insisted on the quote-unquote right of return of the refugees, and Ehud Barak said, no, I can't accept that. Now Israel is saying we can, but notice how she makes it sound like it's not a big deal. She's saying that, let me go on to read what she says. She says, Israel says yes to two national states, but this means that Israel will have no share in the solution for refugees. No one can comment on this. And so what she's saying is, we will not allow the quote-unquote refugees to quote-unquote return to Israel, but they can return to Palestine, which means they have an agreement on the refugees, which means you can come into your own state, which that's not a sticking block no more. They are going to allow whoever the Palestinians say can come in, they're going to let them come in. And so the next article from Jerusalem Post is, the Israeli army is bracing for violence in West Bank evacuations. The Israeli army predicts the evacuation of 26 quote-unquote illegal West Bank outposts. What this means is the Israeli government is now planning on removing 26 more Jewish communities from the West Bank. They're planning on removing 26 more communities in the near future from the West Bank. The army is just waiting for an order to do so. Now, if you're a little bit mystical, it's interesting that they're scheduling 26. What's the importance and significance of the number 26? It is the numerical value of, it is the gematria of Yod, He, Vav, He. So one way of looking at this is the equivalent of kicking the God of Israel out. And he's going to have a say about this. That is, the God of Israel will have something to say about this. The article says that they expect that the removal of these outposts will be violent. The army is in the final stages of drawing up an operational plan that could be implemented within a matter of weeks after the government gives the green light, defense officials said Sunday. The list includes outposts established since 2001, when former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon promised the U.S. that he would evacuate the sites. There will be extreme violence, says a high-ranking defense official involved in planning the evacuations. Once the evacuation date is determined by the political echelon, we will begin the evacuation in a matter of weeks. Do you see this? More violence. That is the seed for civil war. That is the seed for a rebellion. That is the seed for rebellion against the Palestinian state, which prophetically is what is going to happen. Once you have a creation of a Palestinian state, there's got to be a rebellion against that Palestinian state and a declaration of an independent state. The Bible calls that independent state the state of Zion. And once that state gets declared, according to Revelation 12, there's 3.5 years left till Messiah sits his feet down on the Mount of Olives. And the Messiah is going to fight for that state and against those who come against it. Who will come against it? The government of Israel, of course, will come against it. The United States will come against it. The international community will come against it. That being the case, I want to read you a couple scriptures from Jeremiah in chapter 51. Jeremiah 51 talks about the fall of Babylon in the day of the Lord, which Isaiah 13, verse 19 tells us that it's the glory of kingdoms. What country on the earth in the end of days is regarded by the world as the glory of kingdoms? The United States of America. Now here's what it says in Jeremiah 51 verse 24. Pay very careful attention. I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they've done in Zion in your sight. I will render to Babylon all the evil that they've done to Zion. Zion is the state that rebels against the PLO state and declares its independence, which doesn't exist yet. And they will declare their right to live in their homes, but violence will be done against them to remove their homes. And the God of Israel says, I will do to you, Babylon, what you do to them. And so what is being done to them? Removal of their homes and violence. So do you know what that means? What is coming to the United States of America is Americans being removed from their homes and violence in the land. And how are Americans going to be removed from their homes? In one of several ways. There's going to be an economic crisis. You ever heard of the subprime problem? Americans are losing their homes. And secondly, through natural disasters, like we had with Katrina.
You mean like the weather this spring and summer?
Yeah, between the two, Americans will have to be removed from their homes. Now, catch this verse, or verses. Jeremiah 51, verse 35 and 36. Listen carefully. The violence done to me in my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitants of Zion say. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 35, and then verse 36. Verse 35, the inhabitants of Zion will say, may the violence that is done to me be upon Babylon. And the inhabitants of Zion will say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. The next verse, therefore thus says Yahweh, behold, I will plead your cause, that is the cause of Zion, and take vengeance for you. That is very serious words. When we come against Zion, remove Jews from their homes, then violence is coming to this land, and the God of Israel says, I will plead your cause. I will plead your cause, and I will take vengeance for you. You know when the God of Israel takes vengeance, it's not good for those he's taken vengeance upon. We're talking about some very serious things coming upon the United States of America. The article in the Jerusalem Post goes on to say, there will be extreme violence. And then it says, according to officials, the Americans have been pressuring Prime Minister Ehud Olmert to evacuate the outpost since he took office last year. Sources in the Central Command said that plans were in place to begin evacuating as soon as the government issues the order. The plans are being drawn up by those within the Israeli government. When the orders are given, the operation will be headed